Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm Camilla, and I'm here with psychological expert Henry. Henry, I've been noticing that so many people around me seem completely exhausted, constantly chasing more productivity, more success, more everything. What's your take on this?
Thanks for having me, Camilla. What you're observing is the result of a fundamental problem with how we've been approaching work and life. For the past 200 years, our capitalist system has thrived on this principle that more, bigger, and faster equals better. But here's the issue. This only works if we have infinite resources. In reality, the demands in our lives are growing faster than our capacity to meet them, leading to what I call personal and planetary exhaustion.
So you're saying this isn't just individual burnout, but something bigger?
Exactly. We're trying to apply industrial principles to human beings, but we're not machines. We're biological systems that need a completely different approach. That's why I believe we need to shift from time management to energy management.
Most productivity advice I hear is about managing time better, scheduling, prioritizing, that sort of thing. What makes energy management different?
Well, think about it this way. Time is finite. We all get the same 24 hours. But energy? Energy is an internal resource that can be expanded, renewed, and used more efficiently. In the past, people worked more hours to get more done. Today, that's simply not sustainable. The answer lies in managing our energy more effectively.
That makes sense. So if someone listening right now feels like they're constantly running on empty, where would they even begin with this energy approach?
The first step is to understand that we actually have 4 types of energy within us. Most people only think about physical energy, how tired or energetic they feel. But there are really 4 dimensions. Physical energy is about how much energy you have, your basic reserves. Emotional energy is about how you feel, because that directly affects how you perform. Mental energy is about focus, your ability to concentrate on one thing at a time. And spiritual energy is about meaning, the energy you get from doing things that truly matter to you.
4 types of energy. Can you help me understand what each of these looks like in real life when they are out of balance?
Absolutely. Physical energy is obvious. It is when you're not sleeping well, eating poorly, or not moving your body, and you'll feel drained. Emotional energy might be when you're dealing with a difficult colleague and it just saps your enthusiasm for the whole day. Mental energy is when you're trying to multitask and find yourself unable to focus properly on anything. And spiritual energy, that's when you're doing work that doesn't align with your values or purpose, and you feel empty despite being busy.
The spiritual energy one really hits home. Now, you mentioned earlier that we're not machines. I think a lot of people, myself included, sometimes try to just power through when we're tired. What's wrong with that approach?
This is where the concept of periodization comes in. Athletes have known this for decades. They don't train at maximum intensity all the time. They have periods of intense work followed by periods of recovery. Humans are biologically designed to pulse between energy expenditure and renewal. When we stay constantly on, we lose our creativity, innovation, capacity for reflection, and empathy. We become less human, essentially.
So this pulsing you're talking about, what would that actually look like for someone with a regular job?
It starts small. Maybe it's taking a real lunch break instead of eating at your desk. Maybe it's scheduling 10 minutes between meetings to breathe and reset. It could be as simple as working in 90-minute focused blocks followed by 15-minute breaks. The key is intentionally alternating between engagement and disengagement.
Those sound doable. Now, when you talk about emotional energy, where do we go wrong?
It's one of the most important paradoxes we need to master. Self-confidence is essential. Without it, we can't take risks, lead, or pursue our goals. But when self-confidence exists without humility, it becomes arrogance. Humility means acknowledging our limitations and being open to learning. When we combine confidence with humility, we become both strong and approachable, both decisive and teachable.
That sounds like a delicate balance. How would someone know if they're getting it right?
Great question. If you're too confident without humility, you'll notice people pulling away from you. You'll stop learning and growing, and you'll make more mistakes because you're not listening to feedback. If you're too humble without confidence, you'll find yourself not speaking up when you should, not taking on challenges, and not asserting your value. The sweet spot is when you can say, I know I'm good at this, and I also know I have so much more to learn.
I like that framework. Now, about mental energy and focus, I feel like I'm constantly switching between tasks. You mentioned using our whole brain. What do you mean by that?
We've created a culture that worships the rational, analytical left brain and dismisses the creative, intuitive right brain. But breakthrough innovations, deep insights, and creative solutions come from engaging both sides. Creativity isn't some mystical talent that only artists have. It's a systematic process that anyone can develop by consciously using both analytical and intuitive thinking.
But what if someone thinks they're just not a creative person?
First, stop saying you're not creative. Everyone is creative. We've just been trained out of it. Start by asking different questions. Give yourself permission to have bad ideas and make mistakes. Without it, you cannot grow. Take walks without your phone. Doodle during meetings. The key is creating space for your mind to wander and make unexpected connections.
Permission to have bad ideas and making mistakes. I love that. Now, let's talk about spiritual energy and meaning.
This is huge, especially for healthcare workers, teachers, social workers, even managers and parents. There's this myth that serving others means sacrificing yourself. But what happens? Burnout, compassion fatigue, resentment. Here's the truth. Self-care and service to others aren't opposing forces. They're complementary. When you take care of yourself, you have more to give others. When you're running on empty, you can't serve anyone effectively.
So, for listeners who might be feeling guilty about taking time for themselves, what would you tell them?
I'd say that self-care isn't selfish, it's strategic. You can't pour from an empty cup. Think of it like the airplane oxygen mask instruction. Put on your own mask first, then help others. When you're rested, energized, and fulfilled, you show up as the best version of yourself for everyone around you.
The airplane mask analogy is perfect. Now, throughout our conversation, you've mentioned several of these paradoxes: confidence and humility, self-care and service. Why is it important to embrace these apparent contradictions?
Because life is paradoxical. We live in a both-and world, but we've been trained to think in either-or terms. You can be both strong and vulnerable. You can work hard and also let go. You can be confident and humble. You can be rational and intuitive. The magic happens when you can hold these apparent contradictions in tension rather than choosing sides.
Can you give us an example of how this works in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're a manager. Traditional thinking says you need to be either the tough boss who demands results or the caring boss who's everyone's friend. But effective leaders are both demanding and caring. They set high standards and they support their team in meeting those standards. They're results-oriented and people-oriented. This isn't wishy-washy, it's sophisticated leadership.
That really reframes leadership. Now, you also talk about self-love, which might sound soft to some people, but you're arguing it's actually practical?
Absolutely. When I talk about self-love, I don't mean positive thinking or self-indulgence. I mean radical acceptance of all parts of yourself, including the parts you'd rather hide or change. When you can embrace your whole self, you stop wasting energy trying to be someone you're not. You become more resilient because you're not constantly fighting yourself. And paradoxically, when you accept yourself fully, you actually become more capable of growth and change.
How does someone start practicing this kind of self-acceptance, especially if they've been very self-critical?
Start by noticing your internal dialogue. Most of us have a harsh inner critic that we'd never let speak to our best friend the way it speaks to us. Begin treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show someone you care about. When you make a mistake, instead of "I'm such an idiot," try "I'm human and I'm learning." It's a practice, not a destination.
For someone listening who feels overwhelmed by everything we've discussed, where would you suggest they start?
Pick one area, maybe the one that resonated most with you today. If it's physical energy, start with better sleep or movement. If it's emotional energy, practice one moment of self-compassion daily. If it's mental energy, try single tasking for 1 hour. If it's spiritual energy, spend 5 minutes thinking about what gives your life meaning. Small, consistent changes compound over time.
What would success look like for someone who really embraces these energy management principles?
Success looks like sustainability. Instead of burning bright and burning out, you maintain a steady, renewable flame. You feel energized rather than depleted by your work. You're present for the people who matter to you. You're creative, innovative, and resilient. You're making a meaningful contribution without sacrificing your well-being. That's what I call whole person success.
Before we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember from today's conversation?
That you are not a machine to be optimized. You're a human being to be honored. Your energy is not just a resource to be managed, but a gift to be stewarded. When you learn to work with your natural rhythms and embrace all aspects of who you are, you don't just become more productive, you become more alive.
Henry, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me, Camilla. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. You never know whose life you might help transform by simply hitting that share button. And if you found value in today's discussion, please follow us for more conversations like this. We're here to help you discover sustainable ways to thrive, not just survive. Your follow and share means the world to us and helps us reach more people who are ready to break free from the exhaustion cycle. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode.